If Donald Trump doesn't know if he's president, then why should he be president? That is the question that a lot of Democrats are finally publicly asking as the calls for the 25th Amendment grow louder and louder, as they should, because Donald Trump once again is forgetting his presidency very publicly. Now, we just finished doing a video on the beginning of Donald Trump's wild, almost 2-hour press conference, but the second part somehow got even worse when reporters started asking Donald Trump questions, when his brain unraveled further, and when he openly forgot his presidency as his focus on Greenland and the Nobel Peace Prize warps his mind. And it was part of the reason why Donald Trump responded so angrily to a question about his relationship with Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron to begin the unraveling of his mind before we get to the point in which he just forgot his entire presidency.
President, how would you characterize your relationship with Emmanuel Macron and Keir Starmer right now? And have you spoken to them since your Truth Social post?
No, I haven't, but I think I get along very well with them. I mean, they always treat me well. They get a little bit rough when they're, when I'm not around. But when I'm around, they treat me very nicely. And, I like both of them. They're both liberal. They've got to straighten out their countries. You can't, London is having a lot of problems. And if you look at Paris, got a lot of problems. They have two problems, immigration and energy. They got to stop with the windmills, and they got to go back like UK has an unbelievable asset called the North Sea. Norway uses it, makes a fortune. They have a better section of it, and they don't do it. They could straighten out their countries, and it would be good. But I get along very well with them.
So let me get this straight. Donald Trump is mad at Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron, and he's mad at NATO for not giving him a Nobel Peace Prize and windmills. Those are the two great issues facing the West. Does he not realize that we won wars? Like, I don't want to boil it down to that because it just seems so elementary and we won wars together. And this is what's going to divide us, is the windmills that Donald Trump doesn't like on his golf courses. This is the point of stupidity that we are going to get to. And of course, that is the first thing that comes to Donald Trump's mind. Let us be very clear. And Gavin Newsom made this point, and I'm glad that he did. The idea that what's happening between Trump and any European leader and any NATO ally is diplomacy, or this is a conversation about foreign policy, is just nonsensical. It is why they have to hit back against Trump aggressively, because this is not a conversation. This isn't a negotiation. Donald Trump does not fundamentally know what he's talking about. All he can understand is the feelings that upset him and the feelings that make him feel small. So make him feel small. There's no substance that Donald Trump is debating. He can't give you a reason for why Greenland is important strategic territory, because if he did, he would also have to admit that the same is true of Ukraine. And we can put more troops on bases in Greenland anyways. Donald Trump took them away. So stop acting like this guy is a serious actor. Just push back against him. He even admitted that the Nobel Peace Prize fascination means nothing to Americans before, of course, the moment that we're going to get into when he just forgets he's president.
You promised during your second inaugural to always put America first. I'm curious, how would you winning the Nobel Peace Prize improve the lives of average, everyday Americans? Why is this prize so important?
It wouldn't improve the lives of any. What improved the lives of?
He is openly admitting it. He is letting us know what we already know, that, of course, a Nobel Peace Prize wouldn't do anything. And it was almost funny, aside from the fact that it's very sad, that letter that Donald Trump sent to the Prime Minister of Norway, this obsession that he seems to have, saying that they control the Peace Prize. Oh, they don't want to tell you, but they control the Peace Prize. Yes, that is the number one thing that the nation of Norway concerns itself with, is who gets the Nobel Peace Prize. That's their great export. That's the important thing going on over there. But Donald Trump admitted that he's been focused on peace instead of focused on America, because he just is obsessed with people loving him. Of course, he's not focused on domestic policy. I think the domestic policy outcomes make that very clear. But Trump getting a Nobel Peace Prize, it doesn't do anything for any of us. He will even openly admit that. He doesn't understand what he's doing, and he doesn't care to understand what he's doing. I think that is very important. Again, I'm glad that Gavin Newsom said it. But Donald Trump is not being strategic. And that was very clear when he flip-flopped on whether or not he does or does not want to cede territory and is losing his mind over it. I want to check out this clip because it's Trump completely forgetting his presidency, and I kind of want to explain some of the specifics, but let's check it out first.
Last night on Truth Social, you said that the British plan to hand the base of Diego Garcia over to Mauritius and then rent it back was an act of great stupidity. Previously, you backed that deal. Is it now your position that the deal should not go ahead?
I think that they, when they originally were going to do it, they were talking about doing some concept of ownership. But now they're looking to essentially just do a lease and sell it. And I'm against that. It's a reasonably nothing like Greenland, but it's a reasonably important area of the globe. Not to anywhere near Greenland, but I think they should keep it. I don't know why they're doing it. Do they need money?
For a little bit more detail, here is the nature of Trump's U-turn on these islands, which he's now claiming are the most important thing in the world. Donald Trump has called the UK's decision to hand over the Chagos Islands to Mauritius, a deal his administration previously supported, an act of great stupidity that further justified his desire for the US to acquire Greenland. One of the islands, Diego Garcia, is the site of a key US and UK military base in the Indian Ocean. Of course, Donald Trump melted down, saying that this was a vital US military base and that we need to make sure that this island is protected. In 2019, though, the International Court of Justice issued a non-binding ruling that the UK has to give up control of these islands, saying that it had wrongfully forced out the people living on Diego Garcia to make way for the military base. That ruling, in part, prompted the deal reached in 2024 for the UK to hand over the sovereignty of the islands to Mauritius. As a part of the agreement, Britain got to maintain control of the military base on Diego Garcia through a 99-year lease at a cost to the UK of about $136 million per year. The Trump administration previously supported the islands deal, with Secretary of State Marco Rubio issuing a statement in May last year saying, following a comprehensive interagency review, the Trump administration determined that this agreement secures the long-term, stable, and effective operation of the joint U.S.-UK military facility at Diego Garcia. Rubio said at the time that Mr. Trump had expressed his support for this monumental achievement during his meeting with Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the White House, calling the base a critical asset for regional and global security. Of course, this and more, his posting meltdown, has triggered further calls for the 25th Amendment. Part of that call is Eric Swalwell, who is joining in several members of Congress, including Congresswoman Yasmin Ansari and Senator Ed Markey. So let's get this straight. Donald Trump has forgotten his previous support for a deal that acts in accordance with international law to return the sovereignty of these islands to its people, and in doing so, allows us to still maintain control of this territory that Donald Trump calls critical to security. That's what he's upset about. He doesn't understand anything. He is being fed lines by people who are running the show behind the scenes. And Donald Trump has flip-flopped on this because he thinks he can use it as a sticking point to say that territory is just being given away, so you might as well give us Greenland. Or the UK, our NATO allies, they're unable to protect the sovereignty of territory that we have to keep, even though we're keeping it. So Donald Trump both doesn't understand that we can put more boots on the ground if we want to in Greenland at no cost to us to purchase the sovereign nation or to go to war with it, or that this Diego Garcia Island, where we already have a military base, we are keeping the military base at no cost to us. And the only reason it is being leased out is because the UK government and Keir Starmer, under international pressure and pressure within the UK, is acting in accordance to international law. So what does that tell us about Donald Trump? Well, it tells us that his brain is broken. Yes, we need those calls for the 25th Amendment. 2, it tells us that maybe he had no idea that he ever praised this, or he has forgotten that he praised this move. And 3, the man who said that the only thing guiding his decisions on the international stage are his own morality, he believes that. He believes that we do not have to follow international law. And that is a very scary realization, something that, of course, we have always known, but as he wants to continue to move forward with what seems to be a ground invasion of Greenland. I think that he is closer to that than he is to wanting to purchase the territory. Mike Johnson continues to say, no, everything's fine, everything's great, quite frankly, we love Greenland. That's not how Mike Johnson sounds, but he's trying to play it off. But truly, Donald Trump has forgotten he's president. Donald Trump has forgotten his presidency. Donald Trump doesn't know what he's talking about. Donald Trump is not in the minutia. Donald Trump needs to be responded to with leaders who shut him down and really just kind of communicate how stupid he is. I think that's what you have to do. You just have to put him in his place. That's it. It's the only thing he's going to respond to at this point, because he's just after power. That's it. He thinks this is leverage over Europe, leverage over NATO, and leverage against the conversation about the Epstein files. Lawrence O'Donnell made that point right here. I just think it's so important.
The Greenland thing is, and always has been, a Trump diversionary tactic. Trump is no more serious about it now than he was the first time he mentioned it over 6 years ago. 6 years from now, Donald Trump will have done nothing. Donald Trump is never going to do anything in Greenland. He's not going to buy the place. He's not going to invade the place. But he is going to talk about Greenland every day that he can, because the American news media cannot resist saturation coverage of such a simple issue. And every bit of coverage of Greenland is not coverage of the Epstein files, as we will be covering tonight. More than 99% of the Epstein files, Donald Trump is now illegally hiding. We will be covering that story tonight. And every news mention of Greenland is not coverage of what Donald Trump's invasion forces did not change in Venezuela, where the regime that was in power before Donald Trump's invasion remains in power tonight. And every moment of coverage of Greenland is not coverage of Donald Trump's invasion forces in Minneapolis and other parts of the country that did not vote for Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Treasury Secretary, who is by far the most incompetent Treasury Secretary in history, once again faced Sunday morning questions yesterday that he just could not answer.
If the United States were to take Greenland by force, how would that be different than Russia's annexation of Crimea?
Look, I believe that the Europeans will understand that this is best for Greenland, best for Europe, and best for the United States.
That man is going to spend the rest of his life claiming that he saved us from Donald Trump's worst impulses. Marco Rubio will do the same thing. Most Trump cabinet members will be claiming that for the rest of their lives.
He wants us distracted. He wants to be more powerful. Again, he's obsessed with leverage. He doesn't know what he's talking about. It's time to invoke the 25th Amendment. I don't know how many more times I can say it, and the Republicans who don't are spineless, and they are doing a disservice to this country. I will say that every single day on this show, and if you want to support that, as always, you can hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. If you stuck around to the end, drop a blue heart in the comments. Keep on fighting, y'all. Don't let them silence you. And until next time, I'll see you soon.